This is the June 1st Irving Conservation Commission meeting. We're still waiting for a few more people to arrive, and then we'll get started.
Mm-hmm. Did you and Mike have a chat before I got to the room about the RDAs and the hard copies and stuff like that?
No, but I did realize for some reason I thought that they had already sent RDAs or sent hard copies. So I can make sure in the future when I talk to folks that I ask for the hard copies. I think our instructions have it, but I just forgot to. I think they reached out to me first, David. So I think I just in the mix of that thought they had already sent them. But yeah, if anyone talks to you before they talk to me, remind them. And if they talk to me, I'll remind folks.
Yeah, okay. It's just, you know, Mike and I were comparing notes and saying, well, I don't know what we're talking about tonight and haven't seen the map. And, you know, when I responded, Keith Davis of the railroad asked if he had to be here tonight. And I suggested, you know, I checked in with Mike. Mike has questions. It's totally understandable. And I mentioned to Keith that he probably should join us.
Yep, it looks like he's on here.
Good, yeah, because all of a sudden it struck me we have an entirely new board except for me, and so you know, and so I know what we used to do, but I think it'd be really important for everybody who was joined in the last year or so to be able to check in on this particular railroad spraying thing. I mean,
right. Yeah, and so, I think there's, I don't remember, maybe when Mike and Mark started, I sent it out, but there are resources online describing like the function of the CONCOM and like what are the legal boundaries of the CONCOM, that those are really helpful for people to read. So I don't know, Carrie, I think I had sent it to you, or maybe you had found it on your own, but basically you can look up the Massachusetts CONCOM, the Wetlands Protection Act outlines it, but then there's also some guides online. So I'll try to dig those up and send them out because Morningstar kind of comes on board, and it looks like she's out there tuned in. So as she comes on board, it'll be helpful to know the legal boundaries and requirements of what you're all doing.
MACC would also be a great thing to get her signed up for, because holy cow, is there a ton of info.
Yeah, I can make sure that we get her added to our membership.
Okay, I'll see what I have downloaded as far as what I grabbed when I was first starting and see if
that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah,
I know they have some good guides, and they have a lot of webinars too of how you do different things.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, I started taking them, but I didn't get too far.
I know. This is, I hate to, cop out, but this is why we have to turn to somebody like Ward Smith, because things are changing, but it's so complicated. Mariah, you've been dealing with the ins and outs of all these forms. I mean, it's really challenging to make a call. And a number of times that we've sent, I think the worst time was when we worked really hard on an order of conditions and sent it to Mark Stinson, who just, went bonkers and did a dance on our heads because it was just, completely, the boxes were checked wrong and, all kinds of stuff. And it really is a challenge to deal with these forms. So as much as
going through some of those classes, so, but it's just going to take a little while to walk to absorb.
Yep. Mark is here. Hi, Mark.
Hi.
And Morningstar's on. I don't think she has audio, but she's listening in.
Hello.
Hi, Keith.
You can't hear me?
You are here.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Keith, for joining us. I'm sorry that we had to drag you into this, but a few questions probably will pop up. So
not a problem.
Okay,
no problem
great. So, Mariah, I'm good to open the meeting, right? It is something, I don't see the time anywhere, but
it's 6:32.
Okay, very good. I promised Keith we'd have him at 6:35. So we'll open the meeting at 6:32. And other than those of us who are, we can see each other, plus Morningstar is somewhere.
Yeah, hello.
Hi, Morningstar. Anybody else from the public with us?
I think Brian's listening in.
Okay, very good. And Keith is here. Okay, I will make a motion to accept the minutes of May 4th, and I want to thank Carrie so much for the clarity. Is there a second?
I'd have to, I haven't read them yet. Could we look at them quick if that'd be okay, or I'll abstain.
Yeah, why don't you abstain, because they're detailed and really good, but I don't want to take too much time to do that. If it's okay, maybe we can postpone the vote until, because I really don't want to keep Keith here longer than is necessary.
I'll abstain.
Okay, very good. So those of us who had a chance to read them, do I have a second? I didn't notice whether there was a second or not.
I'll second.
Okay, Carrie or Mark, very good. And any other discussion other than Mike wishing to abstain? And my comment that, exceptional minutes from Carrie. Thank you for all the pains that you've taken.
Carrie. I'm sorry.
Yeah, really great. Okay, all those in favor of accepting the minutes of May 4th, please say aye. David Brule, aye.
Carrie Bird, aye.
Mark Latchley, aye.
Very good. And Morningstar was not present, so she will also abstain. So the vote is unanimous in one way, 3 of us for and 2 abstentions. Good. Okay. So at 6:35, we're opening the public hearing on the RDAs filed by the railroad companies, and we have Keith here present. So Keith, what we're struggling with is figuring out how to get our hard copies and look at all of the material ahead of time, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. In our case, we got your detailed messages, but here we go. So can you walk us through it, Keith, and then we will try to move right along.
Overview. Keith Morris, consultant for Pan Am Railways and New England Central Railways. It's basically the same process for all the railways. Every 5 years, we have to update the 5-year vegetation management plan for the railroads. And as part of doing that, the Conservation Commission, the only jurisdiction they have is to approve the no spray zones as they pertain to herbicide application. So it's not your typical flagged wetland with numbered blue flagging located by a surveyor. It's basically those areas, some of the resource areas within 10 feet of the tracks of the actual spray zone as a no spray zone. The spray pattern itself is basically the ballast area, like 10 feet on either side of center. So you may have a situation where you have a pond and you look at a USGS and it looks like, the pond goes right up to the tracks, but in actuality, it's much more further away from the actual spray pattern. The actual application itself, I think this is the 4th or 5th time doing it every 5 years for updating these no spray zones, which actually really don't change. But I also, and this isn't required by the regulations, but both railroads, I ride with the applicator in the truck with these plans to help locate the no spray zones, because I don't know if you've ever seen a truck, but they have a ton to do. The truck itself, it's actually a tanker truck, 37, 38 feet long. It rides right on the rails. You're up very high, so you can see down pretty good. And there's a spray boom off the back with a bunch of nozzles on it. And the applicator, the pilot, can actually control every nozzle. So you may have a situation where on the right-hand side of the track, you have a pond or a wetland area. But on the left-hand side, you have more than 10 feet from that area, so you can spray it. But what we do is we mark the tracks for the areas that aren't obvious. And the system approved by the Department of Agricultural Resources, who oversees the rights-of-way management. Say you're coming down the tracks and you have a stream crossing. Within greater than 10 feet from the stream crossing, you would have a blue tie, immediately followed by a yellow tie. As you cross and get 10 feet away from the stream, on the far side, you would have a yellow tie and a blue tie. In between the yellow ties is a no spray zone. As far as Irving and both railroads, they're basically, you have a couple of river crossings and most of them are streams. So there's nothing really real questionable. They're all pretty noticeable. I'm sure you've seen driving down Route 2, some of the overpasses from the tracks over the river covered with weeds, which much to the chagrin of the railroads, but that's what the regulations state. That's basically it. It is approved. When they are approved, Mark Stinson requests a positive 2A, which sounds a little different, but positive 2A is basically approving the boundary. And I recommend to the commissions that in the comment section, only for the purposes of herbicide application. Because as I said earlier, it's not an actual flag delineation located by a surveyor. And there's no work proposed under the RDA. It's basically just approval of those no spray zones. So that's why it wouldn't be a negative determination. The actual herbicides in the yearly operational plan and the VMP, you should have gotten a certified letter quite some time ago that has a link to a website that has the entire documents on there, which has the MSDS sheets, the spray herbicides, the sample labels, and that type thing.
Yeah.
But that's separately from what this RDA is.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we did receive, I think we received that letter probably back in March or April.
Yeah.
So I'll turn it over to Mike and Mark and Carrie to see if they have questions. But tell me again, typically your the conservation commissions where you have presented have selected a negative determination.
Nope. Nope. It's actually a positive 2A.
A positive. Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
That's what I thought you said. Yeah. Then I heard negative.
It's different. Everyone thinks negative, but it's actually a positive because that basically says you approve the wetland boundaries as proposed. And because this is kind of a different animal with the herbicide application.
Yeah.
Just have them put in the comment section for the purpose of herbicide application only.
Right. Okay. Good. From the commissioners board, any questions?
Please.
No, I appreciate your input,
Go ahead,
Keith.
Mark.
Yep. No problem.
Can you illuminate for me on the map? I see that when you enter Irving at the river on the east side of town, I see a yellow mark. Now that means
that is no spray. Any yellow on the plan is no spray. And one thing I should mention, which isn't part of this application, but the red rights of way that you see on the map, that's water supply. So that means there's a well or a zone 2 aquifer within that range. The red areas can only be sprayed every other year. They were sprayed last year. So anywhere you see red with the yellow in between, that whole area can't be sprayed at all this year. And I know New England Central, there's actually a good portion of the 2 or 3 miles in Irving that can't be sprayed. Right from out of the Deerfield Yard, heading north, right across the river crossing. A lot of that can't be sprayed this year.
And so the blue is
the blue is basically outside. All the herbicides are approved by the state Department of Agricultural Resources, but outside the buffer zone, which is 100 feet, they're allowed to use stronger herbicides because it's outside of their wetlands jurisdiction. But for cost, they basically treat the whole line as if it's within a buffer zone. So the blue would basically be what's the buffer zone, even though a lot of it's greater than 100 feet away. But so they only use what's approved for use within buffer zone areas.
So you would be spraying certain of those chemicals on the blue areas.
Yes.
The
only areas that won't be sprayed are the yellow areas, and every other year the red areas.
Now, the question I have about the blue areas is that if certain parts of those blue areas are actually right next to the river, I'm thinking of the lower section down below there.
Right around 370.
372 is one. 370's got some areas that come up pretty close to the river. I don't remember that area.
As I said earlier, a lot of the, because this is a USGS map, I think it's 1 inch equals 24,000 inches or what have you. Go out in the field, you have greater than 10 feet from the spray pattern. It may look like it's right along the river, but in the field, in actuality, it's
Now,
not.
why I'm trying to remember from actually going down the river. I have rafted the river a lot working for one of the raft companies. So I'm trying to visualize sections from Irving Center on down the 372. But I'll accept what you said. It's more than 10 feet.
Yeah, like I said, the spray pattern itself is basically the ballast area, which is the stone area. So it's, you know, some areas may look like they're right on the river, but in actuality, they're really not. And the other thing is, this, whenever it's approved, is good for 5 years. But say you have a situation where you can spray because the wetland's greater than 10 feet away, but maybe there's beaver activity, so now the water's right up to the ballast area. We don't say, well, you know, they approved it so we could spray it for the next 5 years. They can't spray within 10 feet of that. Even if it rains the night before and there's a ditch that's not regulated, but it has water in it, we can't spray within 10 feet of that either on any given day.
So
That's
Morningstar,
basically what I'm in a truck for.
Morningstar has a question. Don't the herbicides move through the soil and air onto those no spray areas?
No, again, this application is just for the no spray areas, but the herbicides, it's basically a glyphosate, like a Roundup. Once it dries, it doesn't move anywhere. And you can see as you ride down the tracks, you'll have areas where it's clear, but right against the ballast, there's vegetation. So it kind of shows that it doesn't travel in the soil. If it's raining out, you know, it's certain, you know, really raining, they can't spray. If it's really windy, they don't spray either. And they also use an anti-drift agent too. And all that information is on the link to the yearly operational plan.
Good. Another question. Mike, did you have something before Mark started?
No, I just want to, that helped me understand what your plans are, and sounds like it's, you're actually going on the tanker, so I feel better.
Yeah, and the boom itself, it's only probably, I think 18 inches above the track, so the spray goes right down to the ground. So, and again, if it's really windy, they can't spray. They're licensed applicators. The other good thing, Railroad Weed Control has been doing Pan Am for as long as I have, and probably longer. So a lot of years, it's the same applicator, not just the same company. So they're all familiar with it. And they're licensed, so obviously they want to be as accurate as they can.
Good. Well, that's all.
So
That's
there's actually 2 RDAs. There's a Pan Am one, and then there's the any CCR.
New England Central.
Yeah. So you will have to. There will be 2 sets of paperwork.
Right.
You have to approve. You know, 2 of them. You're giving 2 determinations.
Yeah. In each case, we will be acting on the recommendation that we select the positive 2A. So I don't know if there needs to be any further discussion other than the fact we have to arrange to sign off on those once we vote. So we would have follow the usual procedure by going into the lobby at the town hall, Mariah, right?
Yeah, so I know Carrie's coming in tomorrow to sign the Eversource one, and I think that will give you a quorum on that one, which we really need to send out. I need to basically tomorrow or Thursday. So Carrie, once you come in and sign that, I will send that out. I will also be in the town hall tomorrow, so I can fill out these forms and put them in the foyer. And if folks can come in later this week or early next week, I can get those signed and sent out.
Yep. Okay. I know I'll be there on Thursday to sign, so that's one anyway.
I can stop on Thursday.
Okay, so that's the procedure. Or is there any further discussion or questions for Keith on this the spray plan? None. I really, it's very valuable to see the map and hear the thorough explanation. And I think the color coding makes it really clear. I have confidence. I've gone through this many times since 1980. And so it was almost like a no-brainer for me. On the other hand, I never had to do it on a Zoom program, so I can really see these things and sit back in my living room and look at it. So totally appreciate that. Any other questions or discussion before we make a motion to check off the positive 2A box? Any other comments? None. Okay. So I'll make a motion that we open the vote, and I will vote that I agree that we should check off the box positive 2A. Other commissioners just chime in if you agree on that. We'll go with it.
I agree.
So Mark agrees, Kerry, good, and Mike, good. Yeah, and Morningstar should jump in and vote now.
I can't vote yet. I can't vote yet since I haven't been sworn in, so.
Oh, okay. I thought you were official. Okay, well, good. You get a reprieve. So, okay, so we have voted to check off the positive 2A box, and Mariah can do that in her spare time.
So I need you to say, sorry, I need you to vote on Pan Am, receive positive 2A, receive a second, and then I need you to vote on New England Central Railroad.
So we have voted on the Pan Am. All those in favor of what the selection we just made, although we're redundant, let's just do it pro forma. So all those in favor of the Pan Am determination, please say aye. David Brule, aye.
Carrie Bird, aye.
Mark Botchley, aye.
Mike Schaefer, aye.
Okay, good. The ayes carry it. Now, we'll also take a vote for the New England Central Railroad request, and we'll select for the determination also the positive 2A. So any further discussion before the vote? None. David Brule, aye.
Carrie Bird, aye.
Mark Botchley, aye.
Mike Schaefer, aye.
Okay,
Thank
you.
you.
So all positive. Thanks for the reminder, Mariah. Okay, I think that's it. Keith.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time. And Mariah,
Yeah.
if you could just email me a copy of each whenever they're ready, and then
Sure.
send the original to the corresponding contacts on the form.
Sure.
I think it's Mike, Bill Wallace, and Deb Bocash, I believe. But any
Okay.
questions, you can shoot me an email.
All
Thank
right.
you very much.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Okay, Keith. Thank you very much. Very good. The only other item on the agenda is the report back, although there might be other
There's the paper mill letter
yeah.
for sewer.
So do you want to discuss that right away, or do you want to give us? Okay, we'll go with the tie and bond. So Mariah, what's the skinny here?
So we're putting in for sewer over at the former IP mill.
Some problems here.
What was that? Oh, sorry. I thought someone said something.
Yeah, I did.
So there will be a forced sewer main being installed down on Paper Mill Road by the former IP mill, and public utilities like wastewater are exempt from the Wetlands Protection Act in certain capacities. So basically, this is a letter just notifying you that this work is being done and that there are accommodations for wetland resource areas and things like that. On this, it's just notifying you that that work is happening.
Right. Okay. So there's no action required by the commission, but it's a piece of information. The person who sent that was a contact we've had before. Is this Katie something? Katie?
Yeah, Katie Wilkins.
Katie Wilkins. Yeah. Okay. um, at various times, someone from the mill has called me, but maybe it's not this person. This looks like this person works for Tie and Bond. So, okay.
Yeah, and this
Just
is
wanted to
not
know.
Irving paper that is in function. This is the one that the town owns.
Okay, all right. Okay, any questions for Mariah or the way the letter reads? There's a copy of that letter probably somewhere, right? Mariah, in our files or?
I keep this in the Concom files online. If you want me to
Yeah.
print one out and put it in the mailbox, I can.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
For
that'd
me,
be
it's not.
good. Can you send it to us too, or have you? I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it was in
before.
that. So I sent you guys a whole email that had all the attachments for this meeting, and this is in there.
Yep, I
Okay.
saw it.
It's probably enough, right? Okay, it's just wanted to be sure that we had a record of that somewhere. All right, so again, I'm kind of a hard copy person, so what I have accumulated at home is a bunch of hard copies that I will have to probably get to the town hall and put it in the file drawer. But as long as Mariah is, doing the intake of all of these documents and keeping them on file online for us, that's great. But a couple of us like hard copies too. So down the line, when that comes in, either you or I or someone will be asking the proponent to provide a hard copy. Okay. I would go to item 6, which is the report back on the site visit for a possible parking lot at Poplar Mountain. Mike, Carrie, and myself, along with Rob Fletcher, were present. And we settled on an unofficial boundary markers parameter of what was it, 55 by 50?
Yeah.
So that's what I recall and I retain, and we kind of look like the looks of it, but I would open it for any input and comment from first of all from Carrie and Mike, and then questions from people who are not able to attend.
I did go back and I put down some of the flags on the corners and I think on the entrance. So there's only like a few sets of them other than the little flags that Rob had put up on the stick. So I went back and did that. And I did kind of throw together a diagram to show at least briefly what we had come up with as far as the configuration. So each of the spots are 9 feet by 18 feet. There's 18 feet in between, even though it doesn't look like this diagram, there is. And so where the arrow is in the lower right-hand corner, the entrance, coming in between the pine trees. And then the crossbar, that would be what's left for to the trailhead.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 places.
Yep.
Okay. So comments on this? It was helpful to be there on site and just trying to begin to visualize what was going on. Carrie and Rob had a lot of input from their experience, but also checking out other sources. So, and then being able to see it was really helpful. So Carrie, you said you made the flagging a little bit more visible or a little bit more precise?
Yeah, the flags are about far off the ground, but they're bright red. And I tried to double them up to make that they're very easy to see.
Yeah, okay.
And I did go and do that before the windstorm. So it should have survived pretty well.
Yeah. Right.
But now they are just roughly placed. So what would be expected would be for, Glenn or whoever to kind of go out and measure with like the bigger measuring tape. We're trying to just kind of piece it together because we only had so much length. And just kind of, he may need to figure it out just a tiny bit. I mean, we just basically want to keep it parallel with the road. So that's pretty much the only thing I can see
Right.
that I have to do.
So, yes, Mark, go ahead.
I went by there today and looked at some of the flagging. I could figure it all out, but some of the flagging I think has come down a bit. But anyway, it looked good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I can go back and check them.
So I think we learned a lesson the last time by maybe it being too precipitous. So let's take it slow and step by step. So the next step probably would be what? Having Glenn with somebody like Carrie or Mark or Mike, who is right there to be sure of what he's measuring and where he's starting out from,
Mhm.
and have him do a more precise measurement, and then we'll look at it again. Is that kind of?
Just one question. This puts how many feet between the cars? We said 18 foot a car, is that right?
Yeah.
36. So 36, 19 feet. So that would be my only concern, Mark mentioned we should be able to get some kind of school bus van. Is that a goal, Mark, to get a school bus in there?
I don't recommend it unless it's straight in.
Yeah, Mark, go ahead.
I was only thinking about the possibility that they might want to bring like a minibus up in there. But if they really are using a regular bus, they're actually just they're not gonna want to come in there. They're just gonna want to come along, stop on the side of the road, that side of the road, so kids aren't crossing, and then go in and then take the bus back. They're not talking about putting a real bus up in there. No, I was only thinking about the possibility of a smaller bus, and I don't even know if that's possible. But I don't think it should limit us at all. The school
Okay,
can. Go ahead.
No, that was my question, Mark. Thank you.
Yeah, I think common sense would tell you that certainly no full-size school bus should even, nobody would want to try to maneuver in there. Secondly, would be, a minibus could probably get in there if they needed to, or they could also do basically what Mark was saying, which is to have the kids disembark and then, could park somewhere else. Okay, so well, that's this is a preliminary step. So I mean the public in the person of Rob was there, and I think the way we measured it out and where Carrie came back in, I think the next step getting Glenn to not cut anything, but just to look to scope it out and measure it out, and then we'll check again and see, after that, what it means to the DPW to be able to work in there. Some thoughts about the surface. I know we were talking on site about everything from stump removal to digging down and having a basis for the harder surface and things like that. As any comments on that at this stage? It's putting the cart a little bit ahead of the horse, but just wondering what people's thoughts are. Yeah, Mark.
I would like to suggest that he go in and put real stakes in, marking off the corners, and that they go in and clear out the brush, so that not the trees, but the brush, so that it's obvious where it's going to be. Because there's dead stuff that's down, there's really low growth. It all sort of makes it a little hard to envision what we're talking about. And that kind of low growth will grow back if we suddenly decide we don't want to do this at all. But I'd like to see regular stakes marking it off, so that we can say, let's go ahead here and have that. So the next step would be to approve to move on removal of trees or felling of trees.
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
So like now, I'd like to see a formal staking out of the perimeter with more permanent stakes and a clearing of the underbrush so that you can really see what's there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was a lot to have to hurdle.
Say that again.
So there was a lot there to have to hurdle that day that we were trying to measure it out.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think if that's the request and you all end up agreeing on it, I would ask that, like you suggested, David, there be someone or multiple people who can meet Glenn there.
Yeah.
And show, go through the works of it.
Yeah. I agree. I think what's the best way to reach Glenn? Should somebody on the commission do that, or can you do that, Mariah? What would you prefer?
I would prefer if someone could take this on and communicate with him directly. I can, if someone doesn't have his email or his phone number, I'm happy to pass that along.
Mm-hmm. Anybody close to this who would like to do that, take that on? Just be the point person for connecting with Glenn. Anybody?
So what we're talking about doing here is contacting him, finding out when he would be available, and then having a couple of us meet him there.
Yeah.
To mark out the specifics of the 50-55 area.
Yeah. Help.
Well, I'm trying to think what my availability is going to be, because I was planning to go away on a trip this week, but last week I had a little problem and I don't have a car and not as flexible until that gets repaired. So I had a trip.
It doesn't have to be this week. I know that we've got a playground coming in this week and some other things. So if it was not, for a week or two, that would also be okay.
Mm-hmm.
I will not be available from the 15th to the 19th. I'll be out of town.
Mm-hmm.
So technically the 14th and the 19th.
Yeah. The way I look at it.
I can volunteer, David. I'm available next week.
Yeah. Okay.
I am too.
I was just going to say that there are three of you who are really living close to the area, which should make it a little bit easier. And you are also trail people. So if Mike, you want to at least take this first step and try to reach Glenn.
Send me contact information, please, Mariah.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I'll try and be there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Mark. We didn't realize you didn't have a vehicle. Or we would have come and gotten you. I didn't read your email until after.
That very day is the day that I was running around.
Yeah. Okay, so we have at least the next step is covered, and we'll take it step by step and slow and see what we can. Mike pretty consistently reminds us all about the funding, so we don't want to get in too deep without knowing how this can be paid for. So we're still working on a work in progress, and I think that's the way it should be until we inch a little bit closer and hearing from Brian what or Mariah, where we can come up with the funds to do this. Personally, I'll say this right up front. I hesitate to use much of the conservation fund that was provided for us in 1972 because we use that typically for educational purposes or school support. What Mariah, I don't know if you know, I know Brian probably has a handle on it. All those filing fees that come into the Conservation Commission typically should be earmarked for Concom. I don't know if it's gotten swallowed up in the town budget, but typically the filing fees should be earmarked for conservation purposes. So At least that's what I'd always thought.
Is your trust fund, is that the money you were originally given, or is that the money that you're talking about coming in from filing fees? Yeah.
No, as far as I know, I don't know what the official word is of it. It was a fund that town voted us in 1972, I believe, when the Wetlands Protection Act was first came in. I was not on the board at that time, but that's what I was talking about. I think it's been in a non-interest bearing account, and it's probably should be in the vicinity of $9,000 or $10,000. But we dip into that on occasion, or at least I think we do. But there are other filing fees, you know, when an order of conditions, or excuse me, a notice of intent is filed, there's a complicated schedule for X amount of dollars goes to DEP, X portion goes to the town or Concom. So that's what I was talking about in terms of some cash that should be available that has built up, because we've never dipped into that. Now, if it went into the town budget and is gone, that's one thing, but we
No,
probably
it should
should
be
clarify.
separated. I just don't know. I don't know what's in there. Brian, if you're on here, do you mind chiming in?
Yeah, I can follow up with Debbie this week and look at account balances. The trust fund is in an investment account, so it is interest bearing, and it does maintain its own interest.
Okay.
And it's available for expense by the commission. I'll double check on the other accounts.
Yeah, great.
In terms of a project like this, the one challenge is that we're outside of our typical capital improvement cycle. But that doesn't mean that we couldn't talk to the select board, the capital planning committee, and the FinCom and see if they'd be in support of this project out of cycle. And if that's the case, they may be willing to go to town meeting early. So we always can pursue.
Yeah, good. Just as in support of that, you know, I noted in Carrie's minutes that Jackie Boyden did chime in saying that part of the plan when this was originally done is that we would keep it in the public eye, so that to encourage townspeople to use the property. And so I think that, you know, it does behoove us to make sure this project gets done, but also to tell people about it and remind people that it's there. In understanding Rob's and all of our concern, we don't want it to turn it to some kind of a theme park, because it also is a sanctuary and a wildlife refuge. But at the same time, we kind of need to support the idea of having a safe parking area for the public of Irving. So as we go.
Along those lines, David, I would also add, we've got the project that the town is going to allocate ELTA funds to have FERCog assist us with mapping of the trails, so we can have a professional trail map design.
Yeah.
I think the more that we can keep your visitors on the trails and not wandering in areas that you weren't designating, that it goes back to that stewardship that you're talking about. One final thought, maybe in the future, to create educational signage to help people understand the significance of locations.
Yeah, that reminded me, Brian, the FERCog installed a trail counter last week. So they'll be counting over the next month or so how many people are actually going on the trails.
Good.
Okay, we're making progress. Okay, any other comments on the parking lot project? Otherwise, sounds good. Okay, any other topics that were not anticipated at this stage?
I have one.
Go ahead,
Mark. Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
the
Mark.
FERCog permitting, we had one new one this month for an above ground pool on Northfield Street, which didn't affect any wetlands, but I just want to mention it to Carrie and Morningstar. Those will be when there's a building permit that needs a sign off by the Conservation Commission, it comes to us and we have to investigate it and sign off on it. So I'm gonna get you guys involved, and maybe Mark or I can show you how to do it when we get one that comes up. So
Okay, that sounds good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
yeah.
The history behind that, if you want me to, if you don't mind, if I go back a couple decades, the building permit sign off used to be a self sign off. So here's a builder or a property owner who says, no wetlands on my property, so I'll just check the box and turn it in. And we had a disaster at one point where somebody was bulldozing around in wetlands because he just had the building permit that he signed off as non-wetland affected himself. So we asked and we told the building inspector from then on that we wanted to be on the punch list. So it has evolved into this kind of a process where someone from the Concom has the password and will inspect and then certify that there are no wetlands issues. Okay, so that's in brief why we go through this now, and I appreciate that Mike's been doing this for the last year. Sid Scott was doing it before, and the more people that have the password, the better it'll be for everybody. So, and good. Okay, that's just a little capsule on past history. Mark, you had a topic.
Yeah, I was going to suggest back to this on Poplar Mountain that in addition to getting the official trail count and all that, that we try and get somebody to put together a register that we could check. I don't know how often, but basically a covered box that would be opened, and inside would be a set of paper and a place for people to sign in when they came. It would be a place for us to gather information, but also it would be an assist if somebody went on the land and there was a problem.
Right.
They're common at trailheads, all over the country, and whether they're formal trails like the AT or other trails, it's it's a common practice, and I think it would benefit us. So I'm not sure who would do that. My woodworking skills are not tremendously high, and my shop is a little primitive. But we might be able to find something temporary just to put up. I don't, just go pick something up.
Right. Okay.
Or if somebody is a woodworker, that'd be a good thing to do. I don't know if we could get the Charbos put a lot of signage and things up. I'm not sure if he does that kind of thing, or has to be covered and then treated so it doesn't disappear in the rain and stuff. And then we do have to go in and check it.
Yep.
Mark, we are planning to build a kiosk for the trailhead, so we may be able to incorporate that into that design.
Yeah. All right.
Well, if we put one up before that, I think that kiosk is probably a ways down the line as we're waiting on the parking area and all that. And this is something, if we could get it put together, it could get added to that kiosk or tacked on the side of it.
Okay.
I just would like to see it as part of this effort to get an understanding of how much use and by whom the land is getting used.
Morningstar was wondering if she could talk about the school.
Yep.
This is just a very brief thing, but it's a school need that outdoor classrooms need, which is stumps for the children to sit on. More tree stumps. And I thought that maybe that could be put out to the town in some way, maybe in the town newsletter, saying the school needs some tree stumps for the kids to sit on. I'm just wondering what you think about that.
So, yeah, I guess my mind is racing here trying to figure out tree stumps. So we could probably have, if there was a tree lying down about 2 feet across or less, cutting it into sections, right? And then bringing them over to the school and have kids, so that kids could sit on them.
Yes, exactly.
Another thing that if we felt generous, we could buy some benches for kids.
Yeah. And the thing that's nice about the stumps is that they're individual and they can be moved
Yeah.
around.
Okay. Yep.
They seem to like.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that was just one small thing that that Rinky and Becky mentioned as something that would be useful.
Yep.
How many stumps are they looking for?
You know, I asked Rinky that. I didn't get an idea. Mariah, do you have any idea?
I would say less than a dozen. I think any more than that would be difficult to manage, but they've got a very, very cool setup out behind the school that they showed us. And I think Morningstar took great notes, and there may be opportunities like you were suggesting, David, where if they wanted benches or something more permanent, they do have some raised bed gardens, and there was talk about maybe adding some more in the future. So
Yeah.
I think there's ample opportunity for the Concom to support what they're doing. And it's I wish I had stuff like that when I was a kid. It was really cool
Sure.
to be out in the woods and see that teachers had set up entire classrooms out there.
Yep. Yeah, that's good.
Did you all get my notes with the pictures and stuff? Yeah.
I update.
Because there may be other needs for building some other structures. Rinky said she didn't want to commit on that, but she would be talking to people about that.
I think the town probably cuts up a fair amount of trees. You know, and you know, gets rid of the stumps in various and sundry ways. In some cases, you see them just by the side of the road, you know, dumped. But, you know, if we ask the, and maybe even as Concom, we're willing to cover what additional costs there might be for, you know, for the DPW to cut some up for them. I also think if they were to approach the DPW and we had also sort of backstopped it, it would be a, you know, a good connection for them to be more connected in the town.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had offered to connect them with the tree warden. He is out of office right now and probably will be for a couple of weeks, but I'll put that in my notes to reach out to him when he comes back. And feel free to remind me if I don't remember.
Okay,
Mhm.
and I'll ask Rinky like how many she thinks they need, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, it should be pretty easy to find some. Comes to mind that we don't want.
I'm sorry, how big, they should have some kind of, you know, limited weight and probably too, you know, they can't, I don't know if they can lift 100 pounds, you know, that gets pretty heavy. So,
The ones that they have there are probably like a foot in diameter and maybe a foot to 18 inches tall. They're not very big.
Yeah. I'd recommend that we don't use pitch pine stumps, you know. Just a joke. But
We would
okay.
be hated by the parents.
Okay, good. Any other comments or additions? Sharing. So next month is July already. When is the first Tuesday in July? Is that like July 2nd or is it late or
6th, July 6th.
July 6th. Okay. So it's just a few, yeah. Okay.
You all may be meeting in person in July.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And so the governor's executive order ends, I think I don't know, in a couple of weeks, that executive order expires, and we're trying to figure out, all the towns are trying to figure out what to do, because there's some folks who are not vaccinated and would like to participate online. A lot of residents have enjoyed participating online. There's also folks who are itching to be back in person. So I know that the governor and many of our senators and reps are discussing how we can change open meeting law so that both are allowed. We don't know how quickly that will happen. So we'll keep all of the commissions updated before you post your meeting. You know, David and I can talk and we can figure out kind of where we're at with that. So you may be at town hall or the library, or you may be online, or you may be both.
Okay, good. Very good.
You just mentioned the library. That would be nice. I haven't been in there yet, so I vote for the
It's
library.
open now.
Yeah,
It's
that's
open
great.
without appointment. So if you want to go check it out, you can.
Okay.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It's real nice. Okay. If there are no other comments, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 7:22. Is that what it is? Or 7:20? Whatever the time is. I don't have it on my screen. Okay, I make a motion to adjourn. And Mark has seconded. All right. No other discussion. Very good. Everybody have a great month of June and 4th of July, and then bam, we'll be seeing you somewhere. In the meantime, we're possibly on Poplar Mountain, right? Okay.
Yep.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody. See
Good
ya.
night, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.